Here are some real-time CharacterWorks graphics for presentation of various kinds of data, such as player statistics or vote distributions. In this tutorial video, we will examine a new CharacterWorks 2024 feature that serves as a main building block for construction of these types of graphics: the instancer. Here is a real-time data table containing player statistics. These Google Sheets are the source of the data. The data source parameters specify which parts are retrieved by CharacterWorks for use in graphics. The instancer creates virtual copies, instances, of a given template and modifies each copy based on the data items in a data source. First, we will create a player card graphic for presenting stats of a single player. This player card will serve as the template for the instancer. Creating a new motion, dragging data items into it, and animating them using keyframes. For details, please refer to the many tutorial videos we published on building these sorts of graphics with CharacterWorks. Our player card template is ready. Our aim is to show multiple player cards simultaneously, but do we have to go through the tedium of copying and modifying each card? The main advantage of using CharacterWorks 2024's instancer is that we avoid manual copying of the template. Simply select the template composition and choose the Instance command from the right-click menu. CharacterWorks will create virtual copies for each data item in the data source. By default, the instancer lays out its instances vertically. The layout attribute of the instancer controls this behavior. The number of instances created by the instancer corresponds to the number of rows in the data source. If the number of data rows changes, the instancer adds or removes instances dynamically to reflect this. This can be observed by deselecting some data source rows. Compared to older versions, CharacterWorks 2024 makes it easier to manage dynamic graphics with a varying number of elements. Another important advantage of using the instancer is that any changes made to the template are automatically applied to all instances, saving us from having to modify each copy manually. Fonts, colors, or even the sizes for all instances can be modified without effort. The Attributes panel contains the Instance Selector, a spin box that can be used to select and inspect different instances of a layer. The Graphics Viewer, the Project Inspector, and the Attributes panel reflect the values corresponding to the selected instance. For example, if the Delay per Item setting is used to introduce delays to each instance, the Instance Selector lets us observe the timing differences easily. Here, I would like to inspect the final movement of the intro animation of the layer TXT name, displaying the position keyframes for layer TXT name and switching to instance number 4 using the Instance Selector in Attributes. Thanks to the Instance Selector, we are able to observe that the timing for the keyframes is incorrect with respect to the motion loop. Let us go over the settings for the instancer. The Source drop-down specifies which data source the instancer will use when creating the instances. Sources in the instancer's own Data Sources box, or those in the Customizer's Data Sources box for data mapping, are available here. Omit first and omit last options are used to have the instancer drop the specified number of rows from the top or the bottom of the data source when generating instances. For example, some data sources may contain invalid data in the first or last rows. Or, in some applications, instances use data from multiple consecutive rows. In this case, the very first or the very last rows are likely to become redundant, so they should be omitted. The layout parameter controls the relative placement of instances. Vertical and horizontal are obvious, but what does none do? It does nothing. The none option is useful for custom layouts, where the placement of the instances is controlled by expressions on transform attributes, rather than the instancer. For example, placement of cities on a dynamic map, or placement of data in a statistics chart. Here is a simple expression that demonstrates how custom layouts with the none setting work. The draw order setting determines which instances appear on top and which ones appear below. To illustrate with a simple example, let's rotate the instances around their vertical axis. Reversed causes the instances with lower numbers to appear above those with higher numbers instead. Depth-based allows for custom ordering, where the ordering is determined by the z-coordinate of each instance. This usually requires an expression that sets per instance z-values based on data or instance numbering. This sample expression simply assigns 100 to z for the instance with the given number, while setting -300 for the others. The instance with the higher z-coordinate appears in front of the others. The instancer's dimensions can vary with changes in data. How do we keep it centered with respect to the screen? Here is a quick tip. CharacterWorks 2024 has a new composition alignment feature. This feature keeps child layers aligned to the boundaries of the parent composition, depending on the chosen setting. In our case, we can use the alignment functionality of the parent motion. A motion is a composition. There is no need to create an intermediate composition. Simply enable the custom bounds of the parent composition to designate the boundaries and select the desired setting. Another useful feature of the instancer is pagination, which allows us to arrange instances into pages. The only thing we need to do is to set the number of items per page. CharacterWorks will handle the rest. The current page attribute lets us move between pages. The instancer provides behavior actions to change the current page as well. Later on in the video, we will show how to use these actions in the grid controller. To spice up the animations a little, we can use the delay per item setting to add some time delay to each instance. The delay order setting controls the order in which the time delay is applied, determining which instances will start animating earlier. The standard setting increases the delay as the instance number increases. Reverse does the opposite, where the delay increases with decreasing instance number. Ascending and descending options determine delay ordering based on a data column. The example shown uses the kills field in the data source in ascending order. Let us create some grid controller buttons to drive the graphics. Finally, let us examine how instancer pages are controlled via the grid controller. Enabling pagination in the instancer and setting items per page as 2. Selecting Assign Action in the Grid button right-click menu and navigating to the next page action of the instancer in the Action Selection dialog. It would be nice to have the switch to the next page animated, so let us add the Finish and Restart action to the button. The finish part of the Finish and Restart action will take some time. If next page executes right at the same time as Finish and Restart, it will look wrong. Therefore, we will apply a 1-second delay to the execution of next page. Behavior action delays are another new CharacterWorks 2024 feature. Here is another button for previous page. As intended, these buttons let us move between pages in an animated manner. The instancer will keep track of the current page, even when the motion is stopped. Therefore, when we stop the motion and play it once more, the instancer continues from page 2 in this case. To start from the first page whenever the motion is played, simply use the first page action. This concludes our introduction to the instancer, one of the very useful and impressive new features in CharacterWorks 2024. This just skims the surface, however, as there are so many creative uses of the instancer, enabling all sorts of interesting dynamic broadcast graphics.